Welcome, everybody. My name is Katie.
I'm Brandyn.
And welcome to Spectre Space, the show where every single week we go over some ghastly, ghoulish, and mythical phenomena that this world has to offer. This week, it's going to be an interesting ride, so buckle up. We're going to be talking about Annabelle the Doll. Not necessarily the movie, but we'll be talking about the story that inspired the movie. Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
Like the Warrens.
I'm not going to lie, I actually haven't seen the movie.
You haven't?
No.
I thought we watched it together.
No, I watched like the Conjuring and all the other ones with the Warrens in it. But
that's what it's based off of, right? Or it's like one of the antagonists?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like a different story, but yeah. So, do dolls scare you?
Actually, they don't.
Same.
Like, I think they're kind of creepy. Like, I would never own like a collection of dolls, but like, you know, they don't really bother me.
Like, you've been to my grandma's house. Like, one of her hobbies was literally painting porcelain dolls. So I kind of grew up around it. I can definitely respect that they are creepy because they are, but I don't know. I was never really scared of them all that much.
I think I'm more afraid of the people who collect dolls than the dolls themselves.
Like my grandma. Nah, she's pretty good. Maybe she's an exception.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just
anyway,
I didn't know her grandma.
Let's roll right into it. Like I said, it's going to be a roller coaster, so buckle up. We've got quite the story for you. Back in 1970, a woman named Donna, she was given a Raggedy Ann doll by her mother as a gift. So Donna, she was a young lady. She was, I think, 28 years old, and she was a nursing student. Okay. So Donna really loved the doll. She brought it back to her apartment, which she shared with her friend Angie, also in nursing school, I believe. And they proudly displayed the doll in their apartment. Now, eventually, everything was fine. They were using it as decoration and whatnot. And then after a little while, they realized that this doll was pretty much anything but ordinary.
What'd it do?
They would find that the doll would move around the apartment on its own accord. Sometimes it would be displayed out in the living room, and once they got back home, they saw that the Raggedy Ann doll would, like, transport into one of their bedrooms, which is sitting on their beds and whatnot.
So wait, it just, like, teleported to, like, a different room?
Yeah, pretty much.
And they didn't move it?
They didn't move it. According to them, they didn't move it. They're starting to get a little bit freaked out by this doll just randomly teleporting around their apartment, but they're not too worried just yet. However, they do speak to a medium, and the medium believes that this doll has a spirit latched onto it. And this spirit is of a young 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins. Annabelle Higgins, her body was found when the apartment complex was being built. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's probably maybe like back in the early 1900s, late 1800s that this little girl died. But yeah, the spirit was presenting itself as really benevolent. It was very, childlike and whatnot. So Donna and Angie made the mistake of treating the doll as if it was alive, basically believing that this doll deserved their sympathy and whatnot. So they would acknowledge the spirit of Annabelle. They named the doll Annabelle, and they just kind of lived with it as if this little spirit child was now theirs. So yeah, everything was fine. They were talking to Annabelle. They knew that there was a spirit there, and they welcomed the spirit into their home. That's probably the biggest mistake they've done, because after a while, things started to get a little bit more malicious and aggressive, because randomly, these two young ladies, Donna and Angie, they would find these random notes laying about their apartment. These notes were written on parchment paper, and some of them had some really strange phrases etched onto them. Basically, one of them said, like, save me or help me or something. Huh. So the two young ladies thought that was really strange because they never even owned parchment, and they never even had any parchment paper in their apartment, according to them. Honestly, that could have been just, like, scrapped up to be, like, a prank by either of them. But this next little thing that happened doesn't really seem like a prank by either of them. So Angie, one of the roommates, she had a boyfriend named Lou. Lou would go over to the apartment frequently and hang out with the girls and hang out with Angie and stuff. Well, one day while Donna was out and about doing some errands or whatnot, Angie and Lou were hanging out in the living room. And all of a sudden they heard like a really weird rustling sound coming from Donna's bedroom. Huh. Yeah, so they thought maybe somebody was trying to break in through the window in the bedroom. So Lou goes back there to investigate. But once he steps into the room, he notices that There's no sign of forced entry at all.
I'd be so paranoid.
Yeah.
I hear a noise and I grab the pepper spray and I'll walk around the whole house.
You're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So then you'd probably really freak out when you saw this Annabelle doll just laying face down on the ground.
I would throw it away at that point. Like, if I knew the doll was possessed with, I don't even care if it's a 7-year-old spirit. Like, you're going in the trash. Like, I'm done.
That's probably a good precaution to take.
I ain't playing no
honestly.
games with spirits.
So Lou finds the Annabelle doll just laying face down on the ground, and he's like, that's kind of odd. But when he goes to move it, it's not really clear exactly what happened. All we know was that it was a physical attack. Some accounts say that Lou suddenly started being strangled by the doll.
Crazy.
Other accounts that I've heard more about is that all of a sudden he felt like a searing pain on his chest, and when he looked down, there were these huge claw marks just scratching all the way across his chest. They were deep, they were bloody, and there was no doubt that these claw marks would leave permanent scarring. Either of these things could have happened. The thing about the claw theory is that, well, like I said, it would probably leave permanent scarring, but just 2 days after that happened, there was no trace of the scratches. They were just completely gone.
Did he use Neosporin?
Probably.
That's good.
Neosporin. Neosporin, according to my mother, is like the God sent
It really is.
cream. Yeah,
Yeah.
it pretty much is. Yeah. We had lots of Neosporin, and I was a very outdoorsy kid.
Is it just like what is Neosporin? I thought it was just like
know.
petroleum jelly.
I thought so too, but I think it has more like medicinal properties.
Like
But
antibiotics in it.
whatever that stuff is, it works.
It's good.
Like real good. Anyway, so after this event, they start to get a little worried, rightfully so.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, so it turns out that Donna and Angie, they reach out to their local Episcopal church. The information gets passed through the church, and eventually paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren are called to take the case. So the Warrens, they take the case, and if you don't know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are,
They're the best.
they're the best. Look them up. They are famed paranormal investigators from that time. They've said they've worked on over 10,000 cases.
Have you seen what they actually look like?
Yeah, nothing like the movies.
Nothing.
But they still look like a nice couple.
The dude looks scary, Ed.
He does.
His eyes are so far back in his head. Like,
Well, he's seen some things. He was a self-proclaimed demonologist.
yeah.
I feel like if I dealt with demons as a living, I'd probably look much the same.
Hey there, demons.
I'd be drained of life at
It's
that
ya boy.
point. It's your boy.
Yeah. It's yeah.
So, Ed and Lorraine Warren are called to investigate the case. They do their little investigation, and after a while, they come to the conclusion that the doll does have a spirit attached to it, but it's not a benevolent little childlike spirit. It's actually a demon.
Oh yeah, I heard demons would do that. They take on forms of children. I think like little girls specifically, right?
So the reasoning behind the demonic possession or the demonic attachment to this Annabelle doll, they said it was supported by 3 signs. First sign is teleportation, the doll moving around on its own, materialization, the parchment paper on notes, and the mark of the beast, which was Lou's clawed chest.
Yeah.
So that was some pretty telltale signs of demonic attachment to the object.
My question is though, like, how did this doll get possessed in the first place? Because I read up a little bit on this case. Wasn't the doll new?
Yeah, and I have an answer for you.
Okay,
I
you keep
promise.
going. You don't have to skip ahead.
Yeah, I got you. So you're correct. Demons would frequently present themselves as like a playful, kind spirit. So that way they gain the trust of the people that they're around. Because according to Ed and Lorraine Warren, demons don't possess objects like houses or toys or anything like that. All they do is just latch onto the object, and that's just a temporary solution until they find a human host to possess. So the demon latched onto the Annabelle doll, and it was looking for a human host to possess. So it looks like either Donna or Angie could have been the ones to be possessed by this demon, but it looks like they intervened in time, so that way it wouldn't happen.
Luckily.
Yeah, luckily.
Like a little demon tick.
Yeah.
Hate
So
ticks. Hate them.
So after this happened, after the investigation was pretty much solid, Ed and Lorraine Warren issued a
Warrant for the demon's arrest.
yes. They called for an exorcism of the apartment and for the Annabelle doll. They believe that the demon latched itself onto the Annabelle doll because it was somehow attached to the property or the building or something. So honestly, it could be this spirit of Annabelle the whole entire time, but there really wasn't any 7-year-old girl, or at least that wasn't her spirit. It was just this demon pretending to be a little girl.
Got it.
Either way, it's kind of, the details are a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
So they
I wonder if there was just like a little building demon that was just perusing the halls and it's like, oh, a doll.
Perfect.
Mind if I come in?
Don't mind if I do.
Don't mind if I do.
So they order the exorcism. The exorcism takes place of both the apartment and the doll. And afterwards, Ed and Lorraine Warren decide it's best if they just take the doll with them so that way it can't wreak any more havoc.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Ed and Lorraine Warren, of course, like I said, after like 10,000 cases of demonic possession, they know what's up. They know how to deal with this, and they're taking every single precaution in the book. So they were correct in doing this because it seems that the demon has not unlatched itself from the doll, and it is there to stay. Once they took the doll, they buckled it in the back seat of their car. When they were driving back home, they took every precaution. They made sure not to go on any highways. They would just stick on the safe country roads. So just in case this demon had any accident-causing powers, it wouldn't do too much damage. Well, they were definitely right to do this because they said that on their drive back to their home, the steering would fail, the brakes would fail in their car, resulting in almost near car accidents, but they eventually made it home. Once they got there, they ended up putting the doll in Ed's office. In the next few weeks, they noticed that the Annabelle doll would levitate around their house. It would transport itself to different rooms of the house. So they had a separate office building on their property away from their house. They ended up locking Annabelle in that office building. But sure enough, the doll would always transport into the house. So they're realizing they need a more permanent solution. So Ed builds a wooden and glass box that is etched with the Lord's Prayer and St. Michael's Prayer. And they stick Annabelle and lock her in the box. For the rest of Ed's life, he said that periodically he would do a binding prayer over the box to ensure that the demon stays nice and locked up tight in there. And it seems like that pretty much worked. The Annabelle doll wouldn't transport itself anywhere else around the property. And it was moved to their occult museum where you can still visit nowadays. Now, within the last few years, that is where Annabelle has stayed. And of course, there would be visitors at the museum who would look at all of these cursed objects and whatnot. And there's been a few people who would go to the Annabelle doll and doubt its demonic powers and even laugh at it. This happened a few times. The first time was a priest who went to visit the museum. Ed said that he was showing the priest around the museum. The priest goes up to the Annabelle doll box and he starts actually laughing at the doll.
The priest did?
Yeah, and doubting its demonic powers. It's basically,
it's like, you got nothing, JC, baby.
So you ain't got nothing on JC. Yeah, so the priest, after he left the museum and he was driving to wherever, he got in a near fatal car accident. And luckily he lived. Yeah, he lived. But
JC,
he said,
baby. JC. Sorry.
The priest lived, but he said that right before the collision happened, he looked in his rearview mirror and he could see Annabelle in the back seat.
Okay.
Maybe like a vision of Annabelle.
Yeah.
And then the accident happened.
That wouldn't creep me out at all, though. If I saw that just stupid...
How would that not creep you out?
It would be creepy, but if it was the movie depiction of the doll, that'd be horrifying. But it's this Raggedy Ann looking bitch. I don't give a fuck.
But he knows it's
I guess
possessed by a
demon. It'd be creepy,
demon.
But it could be creepier.
Sure, it's not super scary looking doll, but if I knew that it was once possessed by a demon and I did some shit like that and then that happens,
yeah,
I'd be freaked.
Spooky.
I'd be real spooked. I'd be
Real
begging
spooked.
for forgiveness. So that car accident happened with the priest. A little while later, there was a man and his wife who were visiting the museum, and the man was quite skeptic. He went as far as going up to Annabelle's box, knocking on the glass, literally laughing out loud at this doll and saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe people actually believe in this thing. It's so stupid. Bad idea." Because, once again, After they left the museum and they were riding their motorcycle back to wherever, the man and the woman were involved in a head-on collision with a tree. The man driving the motorcycle, he unfortunately died, but the woman, she survived the accident, probably mentally scarred from the incident, but
The real demon's bad machinery.
bad machinery, bad craftsmanship. So it seems that although the Annabelle doll or the demon attached to it can no longer really cause a whole lot of harm, you best not mess with it. You never know if this doll will give you any misfortune, and honestly, I don't really want to find out. So,
You don't want to deal with that?
I don't really feel like dealing with that. I got enough on my plate. How about you?
I don't know if I believe it. Because I feel like the only people that, like, tell the story of, like, the doll being possessed is Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, they're the only reason that we know of this story is from them.
So, like, they could just make up anything.
Pretty much. So, yes, that is the story of the Annabelle doll. Quite scary.
Yeah, let's get one.
Yeah. No.
Let's get two.
Although I think there
Needs a
was
friend.
actually like a Raggedy Ann doll at my grandma's house.
Yeah, they're really popular.
Yeah.
They all should be possessed. There should be, like, a little possession
Should be like
station.
a whole other like Ouija board concept.
Yeah, really. Where you possess the doll.
Yeah.
Wonder what would happen if you put like a Ouija board on a doll. Like the doll could move.
Weird
Like moves its
stuff.
arm to yes.
I wonder what would happen if you play with a Ouija board in the occult museum.
And smoke a ton of
Sativa. I don't know.
sativa. Grass.
Grass. The devil's lettuce.
Yes, okay. The real demon here is
Marijuana.
faulty mechanics. Do you think the doll's possessed?
Maybe. That's the thing about demons is I'm a little skeptic about demons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The scratch
know.
thing though, like I've seen like videos of like people getting scratched.
Stretched.
Of people getting scratched and being like, "Oh, it's a demon." So,
Yeah.
because it's like, how do you get those little scratches? I don't know. They do leave little scratches though. I've never seen like a gash. Like the guy
Yeah.
said, Lou, the guy in your
Yeah,
story.
you just like all across his chest, like these deep bloody scratches.
Yeah, so like saying that they're that deep kind of makes me I don't know. Because everyone that I've seen that's quote unquote a demon has been like really thin ones.
Yeah. Then again, we will never know for certain.
Yeah, I guess we'll never
It
know.
is fun to talk about and to kind of theorize a little bit.
Yeah. I wish they'd take pictures. Like they should
I
have taken
know!
pictures of these. Well, okay, I say that, but then even if they did take a picture, I feel like you could still doctor it. Like have you seen those photos from like I don't even know when, like the 20s or something, where they're ectoplasm. There's like ectoplasm
Yeah.
coming out of like people's mouths and it's like really eerie looking, but like it could be easily faked kind of, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Have you seen those pictures?
Yeah.
They're really weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
They kind of make me freaked out a little bit.
A little bit,
but
yeah.
Then again, I don't really know. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Spectre Space. We hope you enjoyed. If you have any theories about the Annabelle doll or just any, demonic stuff you want to tell us about, make sure to let us know in the comments. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, check out all of our social media pages, and thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.